afternoon. We are here for our June 17th, 2025 Policy Committee meeting. Here with me are Jill Leary, Barbara Owens, Frank McCree, and Matt Bergeron. We have a, I think, very manageable agenda for today's meeting. We'll see. We'll see how we do. Let me get to the agenda and then we can talk through it. So, to recap our June board meeting, we had a minor change to policy 2245, which is our student board member policy. That was expanded so that we could have more than one student board member, which will allow us to appoint more than one student board member if that is Frank's recommendation. And we have a number of policies that we were able to complete in the category of school board governance policies. So Matt, Barbara, for like going forward, I'm just going to remove them off of our agenda document after this meeting. And I'm sure we'll have other groups of policies that we can consider as a group, but those I think are done for now unless there are NISBA recommended changes. For today, we need to get through students and personal electronic devices, which is a new required policy following the inclusion in the budget of the governor's proposal to essentially ban phones in schools. So we need to, within the bounds of the law, figure out what that's going to look like for our district and then present that back to the board. I think the plan is to do that as an emergency policy at the July meeting, right? Is that
I think that's
right?
what's been discussed, yes.
That's what we talked about at the last board meeting, so I think that's the plan. So we'll do that not just as a first read, but for adoption at the July meeting. And then we have also extreme heat condition days, which we can make effective now if we're ready. If we're adopting it at some later point, it needs to at least be effective 9/1/25 as of that date to comply with the law. And then student records, we touched this one recently. There's a new FAQ document that came out. I think we're pretty well buttoned up on this, but we can take a look at it and make sure that anything that's inconsistent with the FAQ is updated. And then 432110 is a policy that we looked at the rest of the series. This one is one that we didn't have. I think it's relatively straightforward. It did have one question when I looked at it, which we can get to. So I think we just start with 5695 since that one's the most urgent. Let me.
I also have it up on the screen.
Okay, great.
Well, they will have it up on the screen. There it is.
When the screen comes up, there we go. Okay.
Do you want me just kind of walk through the recommendations and the overall policy, and then we each hit spot then if the board wants to change or have a conversation about those recommendations?
Yeah, sure.
If that
That
works.
makes sense. Yeah. And I can edit as we go.
Okay. And I don't have the comments up, so if you know what your comments were, that'd be. All right. So basically, it's, you know, as we already discussed, it's internet-enabled devices. So I did make a little change in it as per one of the conversations that Rachel made was, you know, at the front it says, don't say the Board of Education says this is what we're doing. So I wrote the Board of Education adopts this policy as required by Ed Law 2003. This is similar to another policy that we had that had something very similar in it. So I use that kind of same language saying it's a regulation, it's a law that we have to follow. That's the reason we're doing it. And I did the restricted component, which is internet-enabled devices, which by law is what the state says. Smartphone, tablet, smartwatch, or other devices capable of connecting to the internet. And then I added and enabling the user to access, but do not include any devices supplied by the district. also then added, other personal electronic devices that are restricted are those, and someone fixed my error, which are not capable of connecting to the internet, enabling the user to access content in the internet. Voice and text only cell phones. I mean, the language not be perfect, but the only other thing that we're not allowing on district property is flip phones or things like that. So Fitbits, things like that that can be able to be used by students. Bluetooth connected headphones, those are being allowed. So everything else is allowed. The only things that are really restricted are phones or anything that connects to the internet, such as a smartwatch or a tablet. Does that show that here? I want to make sure that that's kind of clear in that regard.
So,
And I don't know if you guys all agree with that, but that's kind of where the sentiment was when I spoke to people is it's cell phones and then whatever the state says, but they didn't really want to restrict anything else.
So they just want to keep it as internet enabled devices.
Yeah, or phones, or because the phone component of texting and things like that, they just felt it was too hard to manage.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I raised a concern in the board meeting about reviving the beeper industry. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if that's where we end up, where parents are like beepering messages to kids because it's allowed technically under this policy.
Well, I think, I do have some suggested tweaks for the other personal electronic devices.
Yeah.
I think to cover that as well, RG, I think restricted are those which are not capable of connecting or enable.
Yeah, this sentence.
But I mean,
Yeah,
at the end,
work, guys,
after this definition, maybe other personal electronic devices that are restricted are those which, although are not capable of connecting to the internet, blah, 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 after definition, can receive or send voice calls, text messages, or I don't know, what do beepers receive?
It's like a, it's like a
Or messages.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe that's where the EG can include voice and text only cell phones, beepers.
What did you just say, Matt?
Or enable
It's can receive or send is what I'm just doing that.
excluded from this definition. Other personal electronic devices that are
What's the
restricted
other
are
here?
those which are not capable of connecting.
Although are not capable, is what you said.
Yep, are not capable of connecting the internet.
Receive or send. Receive or send personal messages or
Can
notifications.
receive or send calls or messages. And then parenthetical, I would put after phones, beepers.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to say,
Should we say or other devices for things that we don't know already?
yeah,
Because let's say we have a kid who gets a watch that's a beeper, right? Like, who knows what they're going to come out with now, Because like when vapes came out, I hate to say this, but the minute vapes came out, they came out with highlighter vapes, right? Or vapes that look like this, or things that look like to skirt around things. I'm concerned that you'll see a market for that.
Well, yeah, in fact, we should get. No, but you're right. I mean, if there's a area to be created, that it certainly is going to find a foothold here. Also, Frank, other personal electronic devices that are restricted are those which, although are not capable of connecting to
Yes.
the internet or enabling the user to access content on the internet, are excluded from this definition.
I think just whole sentence has too many.
Yes.
It does have a lot of variance.
Well, I was cutting and pasting from the top, by the way,
Yeah.
so that's where I was like, I'm not a lawyer, I really,
So I think we can just say other personal electronic devices that are restricted are those which are capable of
Yeah,
receiving or sending calls or messages.
Yeah.
For example, voice and text only cell phones, beepers, or other devices. And so all the rest, because I think we were mixing up restricted and not restricted.
Can we just make it like a plain sentence in the beginning then? Other personal electronic devices are restricted. Period. Next sentence, they include. And then just have the, those that are capable of receiving or sending calls or messages, e.g. the voice, text only, beepers.
So why don't we do it? So we can say, the Board of Education adopts this policy. Well, we can't say it's all required by the education law because it's not. We can say the board adopts this policy as required, restricting internet-enabled devices during the entire school day on school grounds. The board, no, we don't need to do it that way. Devices restricted by this policy include internet-enabled devices and other personal electronic devices that are capable of receiving or sending calls or messages. Then we can say, internet-enabled devices subject to this policy include any smartphone, other personal electronic devices, include voice and text-only cell phones, beepers, or other devices.
yeah, other
Does that
personal
work?
electronic devices
Yeah, that
include.
works.
Okay. Here, you want me to do
Yeah,
it?
you do it, please.
Devices restricted by this policy include internet-enabled devices in quotes and other personal electronic devices capable of receiving or sending calls or messages.
Nice.
Matt, this is gonna bug me if we don't say it. Do we want to say collectively internet-enabled devices, or do we want to call them something else? Collectively restricted devices?
yeah.
Because we're adding stuff in here that. And by the way, like, I don't know that we're like unified on this as a board. Like Rachel seemed to be very opposed to this policy. So, I mean, it's the law, we have to adopt it, but what we just talked about is expanding it.
But I think we talked about it once already at the board meeting, that's why we brought up the flip phone component of it, right? And that's what we're gonna call it, the flip phone or the beeper component, but again, that is a distraction aspect of it for connections. We're not adding anything else though.
Yeah, I'm gonna call these restricted devices. Internet enabled, let's just say restricted internet enabled devices. Any smartphone, tablet. Other restricted personal electronic devices include voice and text only cell phones, beepers, or other devices.
Similar devices.
I'll reuse the language from the top, other devices capable
Oh, that's a good idea. No, I like that.
or sending calls or messages.
Perfect.
How's that?
Nice.
Yeah. Well done.
Okay. So now we need to, use restricted devices throughout. I think we agreed to delete this part in orange, right? Or Matt, did you say that's what you want to discuss?
I thought we had said there was just the one sentence of it, right? The first sentence, these devices can all the way to reduce student engagement.
I do know when we did bring this up, just because the person's not here, Robin did state that she's seen how they can become a significant distraction or students that be like, just, bringing back up her point was I felt that she felt very strongly that she does agree with that component.
Yeah.
Again, she's not here to say it. I think I'm just reinterpreting what I heard from you.
And my comment was that I actually thought it was fine to leave it in there, but just my opinion.
They can create, I will tell you as an educator who's been dealing with cell phones for a very long time, they can create a significant distraction to the school environment.
Oh, public firemen too.
Yeah, they really can, especially during the use, during like first responders and emergency responses. It can become a whole different thing to be able to navigate and control.
Absolutely.
Is this what you wanted to discuss, Matt?
Yeah, no, only because I know that it was raised during the last full meeting. I can see both sides to it, be the purpose of the policy. I mean, the policy is required by statute. I don't really know that we need to say everything that's that's been highlighted there. Even if we were to leave the second sentence, I think it's got to be rewritten because it's just, we just have to be reworded because additionally it's going to hang in there. I know that and I respect the difference of opinion, Rachel and maybe others, and on the other side of it, Robin, who, and what you're saying is that those on the ground see the disruption. I don't know. Is it necessary? Is there any way we can reword it
Well,
to?
my question is really this: do you really need a purpose statement in the policy?
No, for that reason, I think it comes out.
That's kind of where I was struggling with it. Is I don't. This is NISBA writing this. I don't know if you need a purpose statement, right? It is
when statute requires it. When statute doesn't require it, then you may be better off stating a purpose because you need to show that what you're doing is for a rational reason. But when the legislature tells you need to have this policy, then
why have a purpose?
I get it. That doesn't deprive people of their opinions as to why it's necessary or unnecessary, but our hands are tied.
Yeah, I just think on a subject as divisive as this, like Rachel's point about like we haven't studied these things as a board, like we don't,
right?
Like we can all speak to our personal experience, but like,
no, I think
I don't want to invite a fight on that. Yeah. Like it doesn't need to be in here.
My personal opinion with this policy is as cut and dry as it can become, since it's already statutory, regulatory, like just keep it cut and dry.
No, I think that makes the most sense. Absolutely.
All right.
You want to remove it then?
Done.
Okay, so I have a problem with the next sentence. The NISBA wrote generally, like, I'm sorry, the district should not be responsible for stolen, lost, or damaged personal electronic devices brought to school because we're not asking them to bring them.
Right.
So I would recommend taking out generally, but I don't know why they put that in there.
Yeah, I agree. And that was one of my.
Yeah. And you said, what is it?
Like when are
I
you
just left it and to
responsible?
have the conversation, but that one doesn't make sense to me.
Great.
Are we good to move on to the next section?
Yep.
Okay.
Communication with parents. Persons in parental relation.
So what I added and left in here is really what the principals and everyone kind of mentioned that everybody feels comfortable with. They can call the office. They can contact the school by district provided email addresses, and they can use the district communication app.
Parent Square is not going to allow for a parent to message a child directly, though. is
No,
it?
and I don't know if can they get their emails? Can you send an email to a child?
I don't think.
I can, because I can.
No.
Right, but no, I
No.
mean, those don't come through, they get blocked.
Yeah, so then we should probably just say calling the school office.
Yeah, that seems to be.
Yeah.
Well, let me get some clarification on that. So if you're emailing from a non-Voorheesville.org
I'm gonna try.
email address,
To a student,
It
I
won't
think
let-
it gets blocked,
really?
I'm pretty sure.
But then, like, how do they? I mean, I guess I'm just thinking back, like, on when like they did like Erin. I remember she did like a internship kind of thing, and she was communicating
With people on the outside.
I
Yeah,
think they can.
and she interviewed somebody like for a paper, and she was
Mhm.
able to send questions via email. So.
I'm texting my daughter right now. and that's-
But I would think for
Mhm.
that, like if it was related to a school assignment, she could use her Chromebook to set up a Google Meet
Mhm, you can.
and interview somebody that way.
That's why I really think district provided emails would work. That's what I thought they did for kids.
I don't think so.
Well, we'll have to.
Do you want me to try and email my children right now?
Pax Mac or
Oh, actually, Finn doesn't have, or Mac doesn't have his Chromebook anymore.
Surrendered it. It's over.
Yeah, it's
I
done.
wonder if I can. I'm gonna try my.
I'm gonna step out for a second. Is that okay?
You really
Is
have
that-
Yeah.
In parents group, I was actually saying contact the school. So we should take out the district's app, because we can't do that. Be sorry. I hope my daughter has her Chromebook at home.
I'm just gonna say, I'm just gonna clean this up a little bit, grammar wise. May contact their children by, instead of saying by the following methods, I'm gonna say may contact their children by calling the school office or emailing or sending an email to a district provided email address.
Yep.
Is that good?
It didn't go through. Message blocked,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I
Yep.
thought it get blocked.
which is a good thing because it creates a safety structure. So calling the school office, that's it.
Or they can send an email to a district email address and then
Right, to
can
like,
be reviewed and student contacted the same way as if somebody
well,
called.
that's what I'm saying, or the school office, right? Calling the school office and or district provided email address.
Yeah, so Matt,
And that was just my only question was, is it like, what, is there gonna be like a master
It'll be like the high
contact your
school
kids?
office, yeah, like the secretary.
but I think we need a mailbox that's a generic mailbox that multiple people are assigned to monitor.
It really needs just to be the building level secretary, because if you add another one,
What
because
if that person's out?
no one's gonna monitor it, I'm like, I know how the office staffing works. When you have a temp in, they might not have access to it.
Mm.
That's
People
what I'm
aren't always
saying.
gonna
That's why
watch
we
it.
need a generic.
So they
box
really
that-
just need to contact the high school the main office. There's not gonna be, I get that we need like a generic contact the school office to get your kid, but then it's gonna get lost because they go to the secretary, it goes to that one, then people don't get it. I don't think that's a functioning option.
So no email?
district provided email addresses, and then, you know, they can contact the high school the main offices, the attendance secretary, you know, we have that set up.
So then it's not like a district provided email address
Yeah.
for communicating with your
It'll be
child.
yeah,
So
it's calling the school office,
calling or emailing
the school office.
the school
Yeah.
office, right?
Yeah, I don't think you can do a individual. We've done those before and I've seen them fall apart in the buildings.
It works pretty well so since we're gonna have Parent Square though, you could use it for that,
You could, that's
right? Because you're gonna have the option to message.
teachers.
And you can message your child, can't you? I haven't really,
I
No,
don't
you can't
think so.
message your child.
I don't
Yeah.
think so.
you cannot,
No.
okay.
No.
I thought the Parent Square, that's why I had it in there, because I really feel like that one is, there's a lot of communication components on that. That will open the door for a lot of different opportunities.
Got it.
All right, so
And are we obligated to provide that email address here within the policy or
No,
no? Okay.
no, but I guarantee you this question's gonna come up from parents, like which email do I use?
But it does say earlier that will go out in the information
Yeah.
on registration in the first.
Yeah. I say emailing, calling the school office and or the Parent Square app. Right now, if somebody wants to grab their child out of school, they contact the attendance secretary at the school.
So I think this is it's not written accurately because they're really not contacting their children directly. So
That's
right.
Yeah.
It's may, like send a message to their child, may communicate with their child.
Well, it says may contact their child, but yeah, I see what you're saying. If you say may contact their child, it sounds like you're directly contacting them.
Parents may contact their children, right?
Mhm.
Like that to me implies like, I'm gonna call the office and then I'm gonna wait for you to go get my kid and put him on the phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
No,
not,
the purpose
not
of
what
this
we're
is to
saying.
allow the child to be in the classroom without distraction, without getting, you know, and then a message to be relayed or information to be sent to the child from the office. A lot of parents will text their child during like social studies, hey, don't forget you have to go do this, or don't forget I'll come pick you up at 2:00. Like,
Yep.
so that's what the purpose of this is, you know, call the office and the office will provide that information.
So do we want to say may communicate with their
I
child?
want to see what the statute
may-
says.
Yeah, thank you. Because this,
This is NESBA row. For parents or persons in parental relation to contact their child during the school day and provide written communication. Yeah, that's really it. How about communicate with their child, with their children via the following methods?
yeah, I think that could work. I'm curious how the statute says this.
At the elementary school,
2803.
because this is like, they have already done this for years down there.
Yeah.
And now at the middle school, high school, at the middle school for the majority of it. Parents contact the high school the main office.
Mhm.
And then the teacher either communicates directly to the child, like calls them down, or the secretary, or they communicate directly to the teacher.
Mhm.
And it works great, K6, K5.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
I'm just saying, because I think people need to, if they rewatch this and see it, like, it happens already. This is
Yeah,
something
it's
that
the
is very
same
normal
thing
in school.
For your high
Mhm.
schooler that you
Yeah.
did when they were in elementary
Yes,
school.
we've had this conversation. I said, well, how am I gonna make sure? I'm like, we've been doing this
This is
forever.
how we did
Yeah,
it in the
no, I
past.
know, I know.
I know that's been a concern that I've heard some parents say, well, how am I gonna let my child know that I'm picking them up?
You know,
Oh, yeah.
it is funny. I mean, a million years ago, right? But in high school, I remember like at the end of the day, there was, you know, just a tray of notes and it would say like Frank McCree and you'd open it and it would say, mom's coming to get you at 3:00.
Yeah. It's very birdie after that.
Yeah, and you were like, oh, great, and it worked. It's just
Stat-
like getting a text, but on
Yes.
paper.
Statute says the policy adopted and implemented pursuant to this section shall include one or more methods for persons in parental relation to a student to contact the student. I mean, I think that's got to include indirect contact and doesn't require direct contact, but contact the student is the words actually.
Yeah, so
in
we
the
can,
statute.
yeah, contact works. We can change it to contact their children.
That's what it says.
That's what I'm saying. I think
Yeah,
that's
but-
it.
But contact means
Yeah, I
get a
don't-
message to.
yeah, that's what I think that the intent of the statute is. I can't
It
imagine
really truly. it's
that they want to eliminate.
NISBA had calling the school office. Like that's what they wrote down in the NISBA draft
Yeah.
policy. So they even interpreted it as that way.
All right, so can we say may contact their children by emailing / calling the school office?
Yep.
Or check out the slash.
Mhm.
See, we provide two methods.
I say we don't use Parent Square in here right now until we have a better understanding of how Parent Square will work. We tried to use Parent Square today and it changed the URL, something we sent out. So
Like because of a spell check type of thing.
we don't really, they weren't really sure of how that happened. We'll fix it.
So I assume the next sentence, Matt, is not in the statute, that students can contact their parents using the teacher's classroom phone?
Not the teacher classroom phone, but that was when we added based off the conversation at the board meeting.
Just seems like it could disrupt the educational process.
There is nothing in this statute that requires a method for students to contact their parents.
Can I-
Only parents to contact. their
So at the board meeting, we did talk about the teacher classrooms that can call out.
Yeah.
And it was verified at the meeting. I'm not a keen fan of that. I just put it in there because we talked about it at the board meeting. I'd rather just have the district phone.
I would say in the school office.
Yeah, and just leave it at that.
students.
Designated areas throughout the building gives us some flexibility if somebody says they want to use the teacher office phone. but
Right. Or the
to me,
nurse's
that-
office phone.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a good point too. Are we obligated to say what the designated areas are?
Nope. May I allow the building principals to have leeway on that?
That makes sense.
I think this section's good. Alright, so now we're at device access and storage.
Yeah, we're gonna have to reword that first sentence.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
I would take out, that one I would take out as required by, because we are expanding it beyond what's required. I would just say this policy prohibits, and then what do we call
Restricted
it?
devices.
Restricted
Yeah.
devices.
And just for the record of people watching this back, backpacks are considered not sufficient for this law. So I just wanted to really say that that's NISBA's understanding they wrote, and it is our understanding that only using backpacks and bags would not be sufficient. So I think we have to go by that, and that's hence the reason why I did not recommend backpacks.
And I agree with it because I just don't think it doesn't carry out the intent of the law, which is to put the device out of reach. And if you're constantly carrying it around with you, it defeats the purpose.
So we talked about this a little bit, in the board meeting too, like what if someone's on field trip? Same rules apply, right?
No,
No?
we don't have that listed here. It's not,
Yeah, do we want to?
my feeling is if you allow it to happen on a field trip, then is the child getting all experiences of the field trip? Or are they on their phone the whole time?
Yeah, I agree.
You know,
I agree.
it's still an education experience. It's still part of the school day. I think we just have to clarify though, like, let's say they're going on a 12-hour field trip and they're going 4 hours away. Do you want they're traveling 2 hours. Do you want your child to have their cell phone as they're on the 2-hour bus ride?
Yeah, but do you think like teachers can just enforce this? Or I'm asking, right? Like, if it becomes the expectation that like,
I think it's good. I think they can easily enforce it as long as they don't get into power struggles in the middle of the field trip. And the kids get used to it. It's going to take a little bit, I think. Kids are going to know bus means phone, right? Because that really is true already.
Mhm.
So the minute they get on a bus for a field trip, that's going to have to be preset pretty clearly by all the administrators and teachers in the district. Saying, just because you're getting on a bus doesn't mean you get to use it.
so is a school bus a school facility? I would think that it is.
During the school day, it possibly could be considered that, but we're not limiting it on to and from school.
Yeah, but there's like no instruction on a school bus.
It
It's,
really isn't. That's the
I mean, I think it would be nice for everybody to talk to each other and not be on their phone, but it is a unique situation when you're talking about a trip.
Is there some way to, after that paragraph, or at the end of that paragraph, include language that makes clear that appropriate personnel, be it administrators or teachers, I don't know if you want to, I don't think that they get that discretion, but they have discretion to extend it to school, to appropriate times during school field trips. I mean, leaving some gray area where school bus may not be appropriate time for it to be restricted if it's a 4-hour trip, say to New Jersey or something.
I think there's leeway here because it says, I'm rereading it, prohibits the student use of restricted devices during the school day, classes, homerooms, periods, lunch, recess, study halls, and passing time. And what I've heard when I've been speaking to people, it's on property. So if you're driving to BOCES and you're on BOCES and you're on the bus, that doesn't count, right? Because it's the bus trip.
Mhm.
So I think you could say the superintendent and or their designee can, make a decision regarding field trips as long as those field trips are within the school day. Right, because I think we have to be very careful if you have a 24, like an 8-hour or 10-hour field trip, and it goes from 5 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock at night. We have those sometimes.
Mhm.
You're going to be running into that.
Yesterday,
Yeah,
6 a.m. to 10:30 p.m.
right. And honestly, as a parent of a senior going to New Jersey, I want my child to have their cell phone.
Yeah.
I really would. Like that's a long trip.
Mhm.
Hey, how about something like the superintendent or their designee may extend the definition of school grounds on a case-by-case basis to include field trips. Been kind of riffing, but because I think without something like that, I think we're not, policy doesn't grant them that discretion. Do they have it without that language? I don't know the answer to that.
So the way this, so the way this is written now, if it's on school grounds as defined in here, right,
Mhm.
it's completely restricted. So we have, and this rest of the sentence says, unless under an exception, such as IEP section 504, or as permitted below. So we could add another paragraph here.
To the exception, well, no, the exceptions are,
The board has the right
Oh,
to extend it to field trips if they want to.
Mhm.
You don't have to. And that was one of the things that was stated, like, you can choose to do that. You don't have to. So I think you're right by giving the designee the opportunity to do it.
And I mean, if the concern is during a field trip, when there's instructional time, it would be in keeping with the policy to not have the cell phone. But during transportation time, it's not instructional time.
But let's say we're going to Troy Savings Big Music Hall
Mhm.
to see an event.
Okay.
It's a 20-minute bus ride.
Yep.
You're gonna be there to watch an event, and it's 20 minutes back. To me, no cell phones, that really doesn't impact anything. So I would be fine saying, no, it's during the school day, it's instructional time, it's not that big of a
Mhm.
deal. You're going to Five Rivers, it's right around the corner, no cell phone. If you're driving to an hour and a half away for something,
Right. Yeah, I mean, like
Yeah.
the senior trip. So
right,
just doesn't feel like we're getting anywhere with this.
or we could just say this for now is let field trips be field trips, don't put a restriction on it, and then if it becomes an issue,
See how it plays out.
See how
I
it
mean, I
plays
think this is policies, like, who knows if tweaks are gonna be proposed in the law, right?
Mhm. True.
I do think, like, if it's a long field trip, yeah, like, people wanna be able to communicate with their
Yeah.
child if bus gets stuck on the side of the road, or,
Right.
like, you know, that to me is not unreasonable. But if you're on a field trip, like, you want kids, like, talking to each other on the bus,
Right.
not buried in their phones. So, yeah, I'm inclined to
just leave it be.
see how it plays out, and we get feedback from
Yeah.
teachers and kids, and
Yeah. And it's
see how it
brand
goes.
new.
And so just to be clear, as it's written now, it just does not
It's not
include
addressed.
it doesn't include field trips. So,
Sure.
so you get on the bus to go to the field trip regardless of how far away it is. You
Or
can
to-
use your phone
Or to go home.
or to go home. And
when you get to the event, the teacher says, put your phone away.
and that's just a matter of classroom management,
And that's
or
Mhm.
class
Yeah.
student management.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
okay.
And certainly, just what I think everybody's saying, we can revisit this later as it becomes, in use.
I think we're,
Yeah.
there's a lot of,
We're overprescribing, right?
we really are. And I think there's a lot of good reason to, but I just don't know if it's worth it at this point. All right, device storage.
Okay, so we've got the first paragraph that I think is good to go. Then we have these numbered, paragraphs that are building level.
I agree with the addition of strongly.
Yeah.
Okay, good with that.
I don't think there's any other good place in a locker. I don't even know if that's a really good place, to be very honest with you. Because, you know, kids are going, oh, I got my locker for a second. Right?
Yeah.
But it is what it is. You know, they're just gonna have to matter a little bit more, but there's really no other.
Well, I mean, Mr. Foley will,
Well,
we'll have a lot to do.
he listen, he watches those cameras intently. all
I
the
am
time.
sure.
That man knows.
I am
I will
sure.
say this about Mr. Foley. He knows everything that's happening in this building.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yep.
It's amazing.
So for, one, kept in the classroom teacher's storage container, can we take out personal cubby or locker and just say, or other designated location?
Yes. I just think at the elementary school, they have their little cubbies.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
my kid would be going in the bathroom 5 times a day. to Check his phone.
They're going.
That's why I'm saying like that designated location might be the main office. I'm not saying it will be, I'm just saying, right?
I will tell you, the main office is not something where they wanted to have
Oh, I
all
know.
the storage.
Right.
We had that conversation and I heard very clearly from my staff, please don't make these main offices.
Earlier in this though, that was, or no, I'm sorry, it's gonna come up in the consequences.
That is fine.
Yeah, okay.
That's what that was the compromise of saying, we can handle it if it becomes an issue. We can take it, and we just don't want to have 50 devices. Yeah,
357
be responsible
phones.
for those.
I wouldn't want that either. It's a lot.
Okay.
Can I, you know, possibly falling in the category of overthinking this? You want to say shut off instead of silenced? What if they put them on vibrate? You know, you're gonna hear, I don't know what a vibrating phone on a metal locker is gonna sound like.
Oh, I know it sounds like you hear it all the time. Yeah, but then if it's
Just a thought.
I agree with you, but then how do you enforce it?
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I think I hit something I didn't need to. I did not. Okay. Okay. All right. I think this section is good. I would take
Yep.
out the optional paragraph, the next paragraph.
Yep.
All right, yeah, fine. Just leave it quick.
Yeah, sure. Okay, now we're at exceptions for specific purposes. Use of, I'm just gonna change it to restricted devices.
Yep.
Must be permitted where included in the student's individualized education program, section 504 plan, or where required by law. Additionally, the district permits the use of restricted devices
Matt, does the regulation state emergencies?
in the event of an emergency under
I
the
feel
following
like it does.
circumstances.
I'm gonna look. What I'm gonna say is yes, it does. So I guess that's the language we have to use. I just, you can understand where I totally get it. And I know what the worst case scenario is that some people may think, but you know, of course, I just immediately go to, you know, someone who's savvy and, well, this is an emergency. But it is what it is, I guess.
You go back to the first paragraph when Nisba wrote in, can be a major distraction during emergencies, right?
Right.
Yeah, we're a lot, that's
Yeah,
That's true.
if I had to guess, this was a negotiated compromise.
Yep.
100%.
Yep. Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And it is right in the statute. It says it's in the event of an emergency. So it is what it is.
So then we have, other exceptions. Excuse me.
I took out the educational exceptions after speaking to staff and getting an understanding from building levels. The academic exception of the teacher being allowed to use it in the classroom, the staff really feel pretty strongly overall that.
It's not
It's not worth it.
necessary.
So that's why that's all good.
Okay, so the exceptions would be, where required by law, essentially, IEP 504, an emergency, which is in the statute, or where necessary to manage the student's health care, for translation services, or students who are routinely responsible for care and well-being of a family member on a case-by-case basis upon review and determination by
I just said school
School.
principal.
principal, school psychologist, school social worker, or school counselor. Fine with that.
Yeah, it definitely school principal. Maybe relevant.
So, I mean, the use I'm most familiar with now, for diabetes, right?
Mhm.
Like, many people have the
Yep.
tracker that connects to the phone for monitoring, like blood sugar. I assume those students are gonna be able to carry their
100%.
phones.
Yeah.
Right?
But again, they still have to make sure that they're not using it for anything else.
For anything else.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's good. Yeah, so they'll get to use it. We use a lot for translation services. We have a couple students who, who don't speak that much English. They're like low level learners when it comes to English. So it comes in very handy to have a cell phone that can translate.
Yeah.
It's an amazing
Definitely.
device.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, I think that section's good. So
Mhm.
next paragraph. Parents may request an exception for their children to use.
Oh, I highlighted it because, you're gonna change it.
Yeah, thanks. During the school day, as listed above, requests must be made to the building principal. And for healthcare exceptions must include documentation from an appropriate healthcare professional. Under any of these exceptions, devices may only be used for purposes outlined in the exception, and the device must be silenced and put away when not in use to the extent compatible with the reason for the exception. I'm just gonna say reasons, since multiple may apply. Good?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm gonna delete your, in the event of an emergency.
Mhm.
Okay, enforcement consequences and reporting. So skip over the notes. Enforcement of this policy is chiefly the responsibility of building admin staff. However, all designated employees, what's a designated employee, Frank?
So yeah, that's in the language.
Yeah, do we want to change it?
I think all employees.
I would think so,
Yeah.
right?
Just take on right designated. I mean, it's gonna take everyone from a custodian,
Mhm.
bus driver, a lunch aide, lunch monitor, teacher aide, secretary. Everyone's gonna have to. We can't. I will tell you flat out. I've had kids over the years, like they're like, "Well, Mr. McCree saw me," walking down the hallway. Like, I don't see it, right? When you're walking down the hallway, you may not see somebody doing it. So, or like a kid wears a T-shirt that's inappropriate. Well, so and so saw me. You go back to so and so, and they go, "I never even paid attention to the
Yeah.
shirt," right? Like. And kids will take advantage of that. Like they'll say, well, so and so saw it, then this must be okay. And then that creates a power struggle. So
And that's gonna be communicated to staff,
yeah,
right?
we're also talking about it in the building leadership teams is that we have to model it, right?
Mhm.
There's got to be a modeling component of, and I'm notorious walking down the hallway. I'll text somebody saying, guys, I'll be on my way right there. Like, I shouldn't be doing that either, right? I need to put my phone away. If I need to text somebody, I got to go into a classroom where no one is or away from students, and then do it. Like we have to model this behavior. So that's going to be a part of the idea. Do we want to put down modeling in the policy? There's nothing in it about modeling.
I wouldn't go there because that might need to be negotiated.
I agree.
That is a good point.
Modeling and restricting are two different things.
I hear you.
Yep. Okay, moving on that one. Luckily, the building leadership teams are bringing that forward.
Okay, I'm up to the paragraph on administrators we'll also discuss. Do we need to say parents, guardians as well? Just-
Do we really need to say that the administrator is going to talk about how important it is to have a distraction-free environment?
This is part of the. I mean, it's not an optional thing, is it?
I think it is.
I think that's optional.
It's
Yeah, I think
not
it
in the
is, yeah.
statute, and quite frankly, I don't think it's,
I think it can
I
come,
think you can take it out.
yeah, I agree.
Perfect. Internet and data, we say restricted.
Yep.
In the last sentence, we do, so we've had, we've used before, like with students who are using alcohol or drugs or tobacco products, we've had them do assignments on that, or, like restorative kind of assignments to get them to understand it better.
Maybe just, in the same vein that we've been, maybe the district may also utilize, appropriate assignments.
Related to the
I
use
don't-
of restricted devices.
Wait, so when do you use the assignments? You said.
So,
use
we,
alcohol
so we,
use.
so we had it once, we had a couple times where Mrs. Cordella has used it with students who were combative.
Okay.
So like, cursing or getting angry, so that was like kind of cognitive, coping mechanism, so they had to do an assignment
I
on
don't think it's
cognitive
necessary.
behavioral therapy, right?
Yeah.
It's within their
Because
authority.
It sounds like
if they
some of the
so choose
reasons
to do
that
it,
people
by
would do the
including it,
assignment
it's-
are like
it's
up-here reasons
incendiary.
and phone uses.
Very.
But it's just me.
I would treat this kind of the way that you treat like current negotiated agreements relating to student discipline, where you can impose additional conditions as part of
Yeah.
resolving a
Mhm.
discipline issue.
Yep.
Um,
So just
Take it out.
I would take it out.
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean, kudos to them. I mean, they're good for them. I mean, that's what they do.
Yeah.
For their dues, but science doesn't fit out.
yeah, this is again, this isn't as the writing as the language.
okay, so some uses of personal electronic devices may constitute a violation of the school district code of conduct or other district policies, and in some instances, the law. The district will cooperate with local law enforcement officials as appropriate. Required to. Okay, next paragraph reflects a requirement of the law. Beginning September 1st, 2026, and annually thereafter, we will publish an annual report on our website detailing the enforcement of the policy over the past year, including non-identifiable demographic info of students who have faced disciplinary action for non-compliance with the policy, and an analysis of any demographic disparities in enforcement of this policy. If a statistically significant disparate enforcement impact is identified, the report will include a plan to mitigate such disparate enforcement.
I think that is directly on regulation. Right?
It's directly out of the statute. I guess Nisba's point is you don't need it in the policy, but
For making us aware.
doesn't change the fact that the district has that obligation.
Right. I suppose it helps if someone sees the report
I
and
think it's better
says,
to have it straight.
why is this being published?
We've been talking about it as a building. We're working through our school management system to be able, and this is why we have to train staff is if you have a child with it in your classroom, you have to write a referral on it because the referral will then become the data component of it. So that's the infraction. we'll create a disposition for it, conference with student, call a parent, form confiscated, whatever the dispositions will be. And then at the end of the year, we'll run a report, so report up online. So
You should be able to do this in Parent Square.
publicize it in Parent Square.
No, the reporting. They create a form that the teachers. like,
Now,
same
you
way
have
with
to,
the
we have to
Google form.
utilize our school management system.
Oh, it's already included in there?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay,
I mean,
then no need to do anything.
Yeah, no, our school management system has infractions and dispositions built into it. So we use that for all of our data components, because then we can look at demographic, grade level, and supports. And
Okay,
others. Yep.
and it has a category for this
We
already?
can create them, yeah. We'll create
Okay,
them.
good.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Okay, I'm not opposed to leaving it in. I think the requirement is craziness, but, we didn't write it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's good for transparency purposes.
Okay, electronic devices and testing. Let's see, to ensure the integrity of testing in accordance with state guidelines, students may not bring cell phones or other
We
restricted.
just say we're the restricted
Yeah.
devices.
Yeah, I'm gonna change that.
Well, that said, I think this may have been intended to be. And when I initially read it, I thought it meant to be even more, like to even cover
It did.
fitness trackers,
Oh,
earbuds, like even stuff that we weren't.
so New York
Prohibiting up
State
above.
New York State does have that. So New York State, you
Okay.
have to read in the beginning of every state test,
Oh, yeah.
all the things you can't have. And it includes earbuds and any internet enabled devices, smartwatches, anything like that. And then, just so you'll know, is if there is an infraction of it, we allow the child to be able to finish the exam, and we have to notify the state of the child. And the state will then tell us if we have to invalidate the exam or not, which typically we do.
So that supersedes that.
Yeah, it
So,
does.
okay.
But that is guidance that we have to follow.
Okay.
So I think I'll change this. So first paragraph's fine. Test proctors, monitors, and school officials have the right to collect restricted devices
Mhm.
and other prohibited electronic devices.
Mhm.
And we do that already.
works.
And that's a practice that's been going on for many years at this point.
But that would cover things like earbuds and all
Yep.
that. Admission to the test will be prohibited to any student who has a restricted device.
So I have a problem with that because
Oh, no?
we don't know, right? That they have it or not. So we're not gonna. If you walk in, I walk in and then you say, "Do you have a cell phone?" I say, "No, I'm good. See you later." And I end up having one. This is what usually how we end up invalidating tests. We're not gonna search a kid, right? Or want
No.
to make sure. That's the only concern I have with the admission to the test will be prohibited, because how do you really know?
But is this more about somebody choosing or refusing to give it up?
Yeah.
And, I mean, I don't know.
I don't think you really need the admission. Unless they choose not to relinquish it, that's the only thing.
I mean, maybe it can start with that, for any student who will not relinquish a restricted device.
Maybe refused admission to the testing
Yes.
application.
Yeah, I like that a little bit better.
Okay. Any student who has a restricted device or other prohibited electronic device in their possession and refuses to relinquish it may be refused admission to the testing location.
Mhm.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, students with IEPs, Section 504 plans or documentation from medical practitioners specifically requiring the use of electronic devices may do so as specified. Okay. Policy distribution and translation. As required by law, district will post this policy in a clearly visible and accessible location on its website on request by a student or parent / guardian. The district will translate this policy into any of the 12 most common English, non-English languages spoken by limited English proficient individuals in the state as identified by the most recent blah, blah, blah census. The district will also include this information in plain language summary in student / family handbooks. Good?
Good.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
way longer than I thought. All right, let's see if we can, I'm gonna mark this one as final, Frank.
Yeah. I'll send it to Jess.
Yeah, let me change the title to final.
I just did it.
Okay,
I beat you to it, sorry.
thank you, that's fine. Okay, all right, let's go to, the 8113, the heat, I forget the name of it.
Extreme heat condition
Extreme
days.
heat, yes, that one.
I just want to share one thing before we do this is that not everybody knows this. The elementary school has been ahead of the game for many, many years, and they've had this policy and procedure for going on for a very long time. And then the middle school and high school then took it on last year. So the district already has been doing this, even though it's not, I know it's been regulated now, but I do want to say that our district has been one of the only districts that really has had it articulated and highlighted well before it was mandated.
Yeah. Do we have anything currently in our school safety plan to address heat?
It wasn't articulated because it was we never said we had to. And our building level plans, we have our heat index protocols that we used already.
Okay.
And we found this a lot when it comes to the outside
Yeah,
protocols, which I put into the policy.
Okay. All right, so just so we can move a little more quickly, I think we've all looked at this one, so I'm not gonna like read it. Let's just go right to the comments. So the law requires room temperature to be measured at a shaded location 3 feet above the floor near the center of the room.
Just curious, how does that get measured? Like literally holding a thermometer?
Yeah, we're gonna use the wall monitors. They're like within the location that doesn't go into it.
Okay.
Like that.
Got
Yeah, we have heat guns that
Mhm.
they can also use. So like if there's a question or concern.
Yeah.
We have heat guns that we have.
Good enough.
as well.
Okay.
Okay,
What number is this again? I'm sorry.
8113.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Actions to be taken at 82 degrees. All makes sense to me.
Mhm.
We have language in here. The superintendent of schools, director of facilities, and building principals will determine which actions to take, when to take them, and in what order, and who will take them. Barbara asked the question, like, who's gonna do this?
Yeah, it just seemed like, it doesn't really prescribe who's going to make a decision. But then later on, we do talk about like the safety team and then the decision-making team. Which maybe they're not the same.
Yeah, so the building, so what ends up happening typically, the building principal
Mhm.
is the one that makes the decisions with the director of facilities, and then they'll call me and tell me.
Okay.
I mean, it really is a team atmosphere when we have to like move, like say we have to close school,
Mhm.
I have to be involved in that, right?
Right,
So,
right.
but really what happens is the building principal will be monitoring, director of facilities now monitors it, and we go through it, they'll call the principal, they'll say, all right, here's all the things we're gonna do, and then if there becomes an issue where they have to recommend dismissal of school, then it comes up to my level.
Okay. And are those people are any of them the building and district shared decision-making teams or anything like that?
They're all kind of included
Mhm.
in it, but like for when it's happening, it's building principal and director of facilities. Those are the ones that are making those final decisions.
All right, well, we can definitely take my comment out. I think again, I was just looking for like over clarification. It's not totally.
Building level teams become becomes difficult because then you're trying to get people out of classrooms and stuff during those
Yeah.
timeframes. It's just telling me that asked me if I'm still on the call.
Okay, are you still there? Still there.
It's like Netflix. Are you still watching?
Yeah, it's Google Meet does the same.
Okay. I don't know what these little, comments are, trying to get rid of them, but it's,
Yeah, it's very strange. It looks like it's from mine.
yeah, but I thought I deleted those.
Hmm. Mm-mm. Sorry.
I'm not, I'm not an expert on Google Docs.
Hmm.
Okay, so, next paragraph talks about, what to do when it's expected to be hot.
I picked 75 degrees. I mean, that's what they had. Like, I didn't really know a temperature that would be good or not, to be very honest with you.
I don't think that's unreasonable, right? Is if you know it's gonna be 75 or above, like,
Yeah.
start to think through these protocols.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. Okay. Can still use air conditioning. Okay, actions to be taken at 88 degrees. And there's a note in here that when it gets to 88 degrees, we have to then, make a change. We can't,
Mhm.
allow students and staff to be, in those occupied spaces, when the temperature is that hot. Okay, so
So I have a question. Did they change this at all? Because I don't understand why they had a strike through for number 2.
I was gonna ask, I didn't know if that was.
That wasn't
on
me.
our
That
end.
was Nisbet. I wasn't sure why that was there.
I think I looked at that too. I think it's like, maybe just like errant, strike through.
Okay.
But I mean, you could probably do without it, but fine, it doesn't hurt, right, to
Yeah.
do 1 and 2. Yeah, I think that is fine. Okay, and then, this paragraph, Frank, I think you're suggesting to delete. I agree.
Yeah.
Does anyone feel differently?
Do we discuss anywhere else where remote learning would be an option?
I don't believe so.
Is it something that should be included, or it's not something we wanna? I mean, I guess, are we saying if the day is gonna be well over 88 degrees, the temperatures can't be cooled in the building, rather than moving to remote instruction, it would be like a snow day, but a hot day?
Yeah, it would be an emergency
Yeah, it
thing.
would be
Yeah.
an emergency
But
day.
again, our classrooms we monitor, there's only a couple classrooms in the secondary
Mhm.
campus that even get to that component, that get to hot days, like of the 88 component. And we have portable air conditioning units now.
Yeah.
I mean, we have done so much work on this. So, I mean, we even have AC units now for our testing,
Yeah.
for Regents exams.
Yeah,
It seems reasonable.
I think we've got this worked out.
Yeah, and remote learning it's a whole other ball of wax that you end up getting into that. I don't think it really is the best options for kids
Mhm.
and staff.
Yeah, I think this is an example, like we address this in other places. I don't think it needs to be here.
Free to delete it then.
I deleted it.
Awesome.
Okay, next paragraph, talks about exams and when, the temperature reaches 88.
So I do have one question on this that I couldn't find an answer to, is Regents exams, they don't allow you to do that. Do they allow you to, if they change that regulation, will they allow you to redo that?
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
don't know.
well, I think what you'd have to do is, like, if you started the exam and it wasn't 88, and then it got to 88, you'd have to stop the testing and then resume when it's safe to do so.
Yeah.
But if, like, it was gonna be 88, like, when students are coming in the building, I think you'd could probably just move to another
That's what,
classroom location.
yeah, but there's a lot of rules about starting and stopping reading exams. That's why I wasn't sure if they changed it or not. I couldn't find anything there. So, okay.
I don't know that it was addressed in the law. I think under this, you have the flexibility to find a new space.
Yeah.
And then we reference the NISFA heat index procedures here. Matt changed, any other adjustments, the board may instead of will consider actions such as
Okay.
planting trees, installing green roofs or reflective roof surfaces, blah, blah, blah. All good ideas. But I'm sure these are things that facilities is already considering as, resources allow. So I'm good with the May.
I believe you can do the inclement weather. I'm looking at a state memo now from January.
Okay. Yeah, there's a note in here that I read earlier about whether, like extreme heat could be considered like an extreme weather event. And NISBA is saying it's not clear, but they think yes.
Yeah, I think you can.
Okay, all right, I think this one is, good to go. Yay. The 5,500, I don't think there's any, you have to leave soon, right?
I do, well, 6:30 if we finish something. If not, I can stay as late as 6:45, but at that point I gotta run.
Okay, the 5,500, I'm kind of inclined to just table.
I agree.
I think we're covered.
Yep. We did a lot of work on it.
And which
did.
one was that again?
That's the student
Refresh my
records, like the
recollection.
looking
right.
at directory information.
The only thing I think we're missing is a directory opt-out, which I have to make sure that we have.
Which I don't think I've had a chance to take a look at the FAQs anyway. That's was just recently.
Yeah, June 10th,
distributed, right?
Yeah, it came out very recently, so no big deal. Let's table that. So let's go to, 4321.10. It's about 4 pages. We might be able to get through it. I really didn't have any comments on this. The one thing that jumped out at me, and I didn't mark it, so now I gotta go find it again. Had to do with if a student is an out-of-state resident. Like, so this would be for a student who is parentally placed in a non-public school and the student has disabilities. And in this, it's on,
If the student is an out-of-state resident,
yeah,
Yeah.
under CSE responsibilities. So that paragraph 2. So are we providing services for students who are out-of-state residents?
we currently are.
But in, like, could we be required to?
I don't,
So I suppose a parent who resides in the district with a student with a disability could place their
So-
student in a non-public school out of state.
so I was in a district where that did occur. And the district did end up paying for
The services.
services.
Mm.
I was a principal at the time, so I don't know the ins and outs of all of that. That was something that I wasn't involved with. I just do know that that did occur. And that's the one time that I've known of it. Other than that, I have not seen it before.
Yeah, I guess the part that's throwing me off is resident, because I wouldn't consider a student in that situation to be a resident of another district, right? They're out of state, but they're residents, their domicile is still
Yeah.
gonna be New York.
It's just a
Right?
college.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that's the word that's throwing me off there.
But the parent's a resident. And since the parent's a guardian of that child, therefore, is that the payment component of it, or the
Yeah, I
idea
know.
that you think they're writing in?
I think they meant like, they meant the students out of state, not that their residency has
Correct.
changed. Maybe we just change it to if the student is out of state and take out resident. Cause like, this is not a residency question. Everybody good with that?
If the students like in an out-of-state residential placement, I think is what they were probably going for. So just take out
Is-
resident and call it a day.
If the student is
Placed.
placed out
Yeah.
of state, yeah, that makes more sense to me.
Yeah, because there's nice placements. Like, there could be a really nice one in, Vermont,
In the Berkshires.
in the Berkshires, or yeah, something right around the corner from us.
Right.
And, I feel like that's the best place for my child. I'll place them and then get the support from the district after we go through it.
Okay, so if the student is placed out of state, comma, the CSE or CSE subcommittee will develop an SP for the student in accordance with the IDEA and its implementing regulations. That makes more sense to me. Okay. All right. Did everybody get a chance to look at this, and did anybody have other comments?
I don't think I'm in the right one, because I don't
Yeah,
see
you
you
are.
guys.
Yeah, you
But I
are.
don't see you guys. Like, usually
Oh,
I
you know what?
always see
I have
all
it open as a copy. I'm sorry.
of you.
I'm in the copy as well.
Oh, okay.
Well, no big deal. I mean, I'm.
All right, you want to make our change, please?
Well, I'm in the one that says draft and I see you here.
There's two people here.
Okay, I'm not there.
I was gonna say Frank and I were in the copy, I guess.
Okay.
I think we're also in copy of NISBA sample policy, even though when you go to it, it's draft. It's weird.
It made me save it again. Maybe when I clicked save, it made the copy. I think that's what happened.
Yeah, because I'm in regular draft and that change that you made is there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
4103?
yeah, so when I open it, it says copy.
4321.0. Yeah, mine does too. That's weird. But it's open in the draft.
Yeah,
Copy.
I don't understand.
Mm.
Okay, so, is everybody good with this? It's not a required policy. It would be new, so it would go up for a first read. Obviously, it was a NISBA update to us, and that's how it made it onto our list.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm okay with it. I mean,
Everybody okay with putting it in as a first read?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, good. So I think we have, completed what we wanted to get through today, so good job, everyone. I think we're ready
Did you
to,
made the change though?
I,
Can you rename it? I cannot rename this thing.
This is so weird.
let me try. Well, let me try to rename. I renamed it.
All right, thank you.
It worked.
Yeah, I can get to work.
Okay.
Okay. And I just sent it to Jess. So we're good.
Okay. Yeah. So we're good. All right. Good work, everyone. This is our last policy committee meeting of the school year. So great job.
Wow.
Good job. A lot of work
Yeah,
on this.
we got a lot done.
Mhm.
yeah,